And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be focusing on Paul George again because, he is one of the more popular players and one of the better players out of this in this free agency and in the free agency market. So we're going to talk a little bit about him and how it seems like the Golden State Warriors are ready to make deals with him as well as trade for him. So, looking at this report, it's the headline for this is that Warriors are willing to give Clippers star 4-year max contract, and there's another header that I saw in another article that is claiming that the Warriors are also ready to trade him, to trade for him. Like, they're prepared to trade for Paul George and offer him a full 4-year max contract. So a sign and trade, or like trade and sign, however you want to call it. But also, I completely forgot to mention before in the first segment that the Nets, they aren't done trading any of their pieces. So names like Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Bojan, Dennis Schroeder, Ben Simmons, and Deron Sharp, they're all names that have been circulating on the Brooklyn Nets trade block. So, thank the Lord. Please get Ben Simmons off the team. Please. If that happens in this offseason, I'm going to be the happiest person on the planet. I'm going to throw a party. Like, that's what's going to happen. But, anyways, let's go back to the to Paul George, because he is one of the more famous free agents that are it seems like he's going to be a free agent. Again, we have no idea whether or not he's going to pick up his player option with the Clippers, and if he does, there is a possibility that the Warriors will trade for him if he picks up that player option, and then they'll sign him after he gets that player option. But we'll see how they decide to work it in this free agency. Have no idea what's going to happen, and chances are he might just stay with the Clippers. Who knows? But he is looking for that max. Now, the Golden State Warriors, according to this article by Bleacher Report, reportedly willing to offer Paul George a 4-year max contract in free agency. Now, here's a quote from Brian Windhorst. To this point, the Clippers have only been willing to offer Paul George about what they gave Kawhi Leonard. 3 years at a little bit less than the max contract, and Paul George frankly wants 4 years. He wants a full-out max, and there are a number of teams out there, I am told, that are prepared to give it to him, who are prepared to trade for him. One of those teams potentially is up the coast in Golden State. So this is a quote from Windhorst. Now, honestly, it seems a little bit. I think it's a little bit. How should I say this? A little bit weird. Paul George being on the Warriors. That sounds weird. And speaking as again, this is coming from a fan that thought that Paul George going to the Thunder was also a little bit weird. But aside from that, seeing Paul George teaming up with Steph Curry is going to be interesting if that does happen. It also seems like the Golden State Warriors don't really like getting younger players. Most of their roster is relatively old. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and most of those their best players are old players. And it'll be very interesting to see how these players they mesh with the rest of them, and how Paul George is going to mesh with the rest of them in the in the locker room, especially with Klay Thompson. If Klay Thompson decides to leave, which is most likely what's going to happen if the Warriors offer Paul George the max contract. So we'll see exactly how this free agency pans out. But having Paul George on the Warriors and Steph Curry, it really seems like they want to win, and they want to win right now, and they want to try and do it again with Steph Curry, and they'll be loaded with talent again with Paul George, Draymond, and Steph Curry. And it's like the Warriors, they don't seem to want to go away. Every single time that we think that they're going to just be kaput for a little bit, they don't want to go away. They always that front office is legendary. The Golden State Warriors front office is legendary. I'm gonna stand by that till the end of time. They are one of the best front offices in this time and in this period in the NBA, without a doubt. And looking at the article and the rest of what's got to be said, George is limited to a 4-year max contract both with the Clippers and any other team due to the NBA's age 38 rule. The Warriors would have to reach a sign and trade agreement with the Clippers in order to realistically land Paul George, at least according to this article. So again, we'll see how this works in the free agency. But let me know in the comments what you guys think of this duo. Like, do you guys think that Paul George and Steph Curry, do you guys think that duo is going to be great? Do you think it'll be better than Klay Thompson? Would you rather have Klay Thompson stay on the team and be loyal to him as opposed to Paul George? Or would you rather just, say, let's forget about all that and let's try and win right now and acquire a great free agent? Now, really, the biggest concern, I've seen a lot of people in the comments when I did the previous Paul George video, they all were concerned about Paul George's age and just how that would affect him and his play. And yeah, I understand that his age definitely plays a part of it, but when you're trying to get someone like him, you're in a win now mentality. You're not trying to make a better team for the future. You're trying to win right now. So it genuinely doesn't matter the age as long as you win right now. And I understand injuries are also a major concern, but one thing that I just genuinely didn't understand is how, yes, injuries are a big concern, but most of the people that were in the comments, I believe they they were Philly fans. I'm just assuming because the conversation was about Philly and how they didn't want to negotiate in deals with Paul George. Joel Embiid gets injured every single postseason. It happens all the time. But they're okay with that. You're cool with your best player getting injured. So what's the point? Why is it such a big deal that you're acquiring a free agent that could make your team better? We understand that injuries are a possibility, but why? I feel like it's a little bit odd because yes, you're going to bring up the injuries now with Paul George, but you're not going to bring up the injuries with your star player Joel Embiid. I find that a little bit weird. That's just me, however. That's literally just me. So I think that with Paul George, if he were to go to the Golden State Warriors, I'm not entirely sure how that would fit. I really do think that the Sixers are a much better fit for Paul George and the situation that he wants to be in. And and not only that, Steph Curry, he also has a history of ankle injuries, and they do happen at arguably some of the worst times. So that also might backfire, and, especially with his age, because, they're both relatively old. It's a bit of a risk. It is a bit of a risk, but it does seem like it's a risk that the Warriors are willing to take. But I think that I genuinely think that the Sixers are a better move for him. I genuinely think that. But there is also the crazy scenario that he just decides to stay with the Clippers, but since he's really reluctant on getting that max, it doesn't really seem like that's going to be the case. So it really seems like he's going to go to a completely different team. So just wanted to bring that up in the news. That is arguably that is going to be the talk of the offseason, where Paul George decides to end up. And we have somebody in the chat, stupid Laker fan. That's a funny name. This not a risk for Golden State, but East will be smart. Right, that's genuinely what I think as well, because the Western Conference is incredibly loaded with talented teams. The 1 seed and the 10th seed were 2 games apart at one point. Meanwhile, when you're over on the Eastern Conference, you have a little bit more of you can even the playing field out a little bit, because there's only, in my opinion, in the Eastern Conference, there's only really 3 teams right now that are able to compete. And those 3 teams are the Boston Celtics, obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the New York Knicks. Like, those are the only 3 teams that I genuinely think are competing in the Eastern Conference. Every other team doesn't matter. Now, Pacers, yes, I understand they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but if the Knicks were healthy, the Knicks would have made it there. I will refuse to listen to anyone who thinks that the Pacers would have beaten the Knicks if the Knicks were healthy. Refuse to hear it. Refuse to believe it. Nope. And not only that, but the Bucks, I gotta respect the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, just Hall of Fame talent, Hall of Famer, Greek freak, and Damian Lillard, while he wasn't the best, it was also, I did do a podcast saying that he wasn't at 100% because he wasn't training in the offseason because he didn't want to get injured because he knew he was going to get traded. So I have those 3 teams as competing teams, and I don't see anybody else in the Eastern Conference being able to compete against those 3 teams. Sure, Philly, that could be an option. Yes, I understand there's going to be a bunch of people in the comments that are like, oh, but Philly can compete with the Knicks. Oh, Philly can compete with Boston. No, they can't. Joel Embiid gets injured every single postseason. Joel Embiid has yet to beat the Boston Celtics in a postseason, and the Knicks just stomped the Joel Embiid out of the postseason this recent year. So get out of here with that. And let me see, what else? Oop, another stupid Laker fan in the comments yet again. Yeah, they need at least 5 teams competing in the East to pull out your checkbooks. So yeah. That's basically what I don't know exactly what you mean by that. If you want to go ahead and explain that, I could have a talk with you, a conversation with you in the next segment, because I do have to move on to the next segment, which is going to be talking about some potential draft day trades that are going to be happening, or not going to be happening, but could possibly happen as the NBA draft is approaching. So I might as well go ahead and talk a little bit about the draft and the possibilities of players being traded on draft night. So I'll talk a little bit about that right after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. To access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.